Hello, team. It's Alex Gem. Welcome to the Alex Gem Experience podcast. Today, we are talking about breakthroughs. We're going to firstly uncover what a breakthrough is. I'm going to give you several examples of what a breakthrough might mean so that you can understand it and kind of put it into perspective for you so that it makes sense to you, it relates to you, and it's specific towards your needs, it's subjective. And then we're going to uncover the diverse variables that are involved that enable a breakthrough to happen, because it's not just as simple as overcoming something. There are so many diverse things that will need to be taken into account. And some of these you know, and I'm sure some of these you are unfamiliar with. So at the end of this podcast, you should have a much clearer understanding of what it takes in order to break through in your life. So what is a breakthrough? Quite simply, a breakthrough is when you manage to access something that you have never accessed before. Now, that's a very generic term, so let's make it a bit more specific to you. So breakthroughs, there can be a breakthrough in any area in your life. A breakthrough moment could be the first sale that you make if you're a salesman or woman. A breakthrough moment could be, the fastest time for you to break a sprinting record if you're an athlete. A breakthrough for you might be losing a certain amount of weight that you've never lost before. A breakthrough moment for you might be developing your levels of consciousness and how awakened you become, and you start to change your perspectives when you realize what your purpose in life might be. It's kind of like a light bulb moment as well in many ways, and I'll return to that a bit later. So, I'm just going to give you a few more random examples as well so that some of them start to stick with you and make sense. A breakthrough moment could be where you find the answer to a solution, even like a mathematical solution, or a problem that you've had in a relationship of some sort, and finding a solution or finding a breakthrough moment. A breakthrough moment could be someone when they take responsibility for once, for instance, and I'll talk about that quite a bit because that's such an influencing factor in what enables a breakthrough to happen. A breakthrough can be, starting your business, and it's something that you've put off for many years, or maybe in the back of your mind you always wanted to start a new hobby, but for one reason or another you had all kinds of excuses that deterred you from doing so, and now you've actually embarked on that journey of developing this new skill. A breakthrough moment could be for overriding and overcoming one of your limiting beliefs. A limiting belief could be, I'm unworthy of love. And then when you fall in love, that's a breakthrough moment in your romantic life, for example. Breakthrough moments are absolutely key. But there are so many diverse factors that we must take into account to make sure that we break through more consistently. Because, we all have broken through things in our lives. We've all had breakthrough moments. Some of them you're aware of, and some of them you're like, oh, I didn't know that was a breakthrough moment for me. Some of them are memorable, and you can pinpoint it and go, you know what, that was where things changed. That was the moment where I overcame a massive hurdle in my life, metaphorically or literally. So I've given you many diverse examples. We should kind of essentially comprehend. And, there are different degrees of what a breakthrough moment might be. If you learn how to get a certain grade in an essay, for example, if you're studying towards something, for instance, that's in the grand scheme of things, that's a small breakthrough, but it's still a breakthrough nonetheless. Whereas a large breakthrough might be such as the one that I gave earlier about becoming more peaceful, becoming more tranquil, becoming more conscious and more enlightened, becoming self-actualized, learning to let go of your past, for example. These are more potent and powerful and significant breakthrough moments in one's life. Another large breakthrough moment for you might be, your first ever investment. For example, if you're someone who never thought about investing or starting a business or anything like that, and you did it and it became successful and it started to flourish and bring you income on a regular basis, that's a breakthrough moment as well. So all I want you to do before we continue any further is start to think about what breakthrough situations you've been struggling with. So the question you might want to ask yourself is now, what do I want to improve in my life? And even though it's not good to have negative questions, and I'll come back to this later, you might want to ask why you've been unable to kind of break through so far. So you can kind of uncover your limiting beliefs and your story. I'm going to talk a lot about your story in a moment. Because that is so crucial in comprehending why we have been stuck, why we've been unable to progress in our lives. So let's move on. We know what a breakthrough moment is. I've given you examples. We know that there are different degrees, and you've had an opportunity now to understand what kind of breakthrough moments you want to comprehend, so that when I go through these examples and these variables, you can start to directly apply it to your life. So you might want to have a notepad and pen and make this more personalized to you and your needs. So let's look at the first variable, desire. Quite simply, the most significant and crucial skill, and I'll call it a skill in life, that will enable us to break through is our hunger, our desire. And this is very much linked to our resilience. It very seldomly does someone achieve something the very first time they go about it. You know, for many people, many really successful business people, for example, it might be their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th business venture before something becomes very beneficial and helps the public in many different ways. You know, the first time you look to start losing weight, you might start a diet that's impractical, that's unsustainable or something like that. So very rarely does your first ever idea in life become the main one. For example, your first ever boyfriend or girlfriend, for example, it's quite unlikely that will be the one that works. Obviously, there are anomalies. Everyone's situation is different, but I'm just giving you various different examples in different contexts so you can comprehend exactly what I'm saying here. And what we have to understand is that if we have hunger, if we have that determination, which is another synonym to use here, then you will make things work. And it won't be a matter of if, it will become a matter of when it will happen, when it will materialize, when will you make it work. Because in life, I believe that there is some kind of like energy forces, whether you are quite spiritual or you believe that if you're a good person, you do the right sort of things, that things will work out for you, whatever your ideologies might be. My perspective is that the more you push for something, the more you invest in something, your time, your money, your education, your energy, the more you invest in something, the more likely you are to accomplish something in that feat, in that area. I mean, just look at the example of Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC. He went to over 1,000 different people and they were all saying no. He kept getting rejected and rejected. And he was quite reasonably elderly when he made it happen. He had this fight. He had this amount of hunger in him in his later years. And he made it work. It took him over 1,000 times of getting rejected. People tell him, no, it won't work. Not interested. Leave me alone. And then someone accepted his recipe. Someone gave him a go. And we all know how incredibly successful KFC has become. And this is one of many examples of people who keep moving forward. And this is all about focus. You know, it's about not paying attention to the negatives. You're going to always have haters. You're going to always have people who are disparaging you, trying to belittle you, make it feel like you're not as significant and these sorts of things because of their own limiting beliefs and their jealousy and their own unconscious pains. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on that in this podcast. But it's, can you stay focused during turbulent and troublesome times? Can you stay focused when something that you thought would work didn't work? Can you stay focused when you truly believe that you deserved something because you were a good person with the right intentions and it didn't work? Can you keep moving forward? Can you keep, I don't like to use the verb trying, that gerund verb, but can you attempt diverse strategies and ideas and different perceptions until you make it work? Because that's what it's all about here. It's about moving forward, showing that resilience, showing that grit. And that requires bravery. You know, that requires courage, guys, to keep moving forward, even though in terms of reality, as we know it, it's not working so far. But we have to learn, and one of the only ways to stay focused and to ensure that our hunger and our fire burns continuously is to understand that there will be pitfalls. There will be a roller coaster in terms of our emotions, in terms of unexpected events, in terms of things that you didn't foresee, in terms of the unknown areas where you didn't know how difficult other areas would be, and then you improve one area, and that opened up the floodgate of different areas that you also need to improve that you didn't know about, and then that has its own branches, if you will, of things that you need to learn and develop and acquire. And it's a constant learning process. You have to learn to love the process, guys. And the reason why people quit and give up and do not break through in areas that are important for them is because they are focused on the result, because they are focused on their own ego. They identify with successes, reputation, what others will think of them, and so on and so forth. It's not about that kind of form-based focus, that kind of limited consciousness, that conditioned consciousness. It's not about that. We need to rise above this. We need to learn to enjoy the process. It's not necessarily about having a great 8-pack and having the most incredible body. It's about learning to enjoy exercising, learning to enjoy meditation, learning to enjoy sleeping well, learning to enjoy muscle recovery like sauna or hot and cold baths and these sort of things. Learning to enjoy the process of getting the right kind of supplementation and prepping healthy meals and eating healthy meals. If you don't enjoy that process, you're not going to make it work long term. It's just the way it works. Same thing for business. If you're only focused on becoming incredibly wealthy and you just want the money, well, you're going to give up. You're going to be a dabbler. You're not going to make it work. You won't be incredibly successful beyond your dreams because you're chasing something superficial, something illusory. So instead, focus on enjoying creating your products, services, developing marketing skills, advertising, creating a team around you, delegating to people who are better than you in different areas so that you can thrive. Focus on creating a successful, happy culture where people are working towards the same vision and goals. You have to enjoy the day in and day out. You can't just look for the result, guys. You have to learn to love the daily process. Or the daily grind, as people put it. I prefer a different verb, but there you go. So, hunger, desire is key. Alongside desire's cousin, if you will, a bit of personification for you there, is standards. We need to set higher standards of ourselves. If you're going to break through, you have to expect more of yourself and others for that matter, depending on what your goal is, what the breakthrough moment's going to be. Because sometimes we need others to join us in our goals to make it work. For instance, if you're looking to have a breakthrough moment in a relationship, it takes two to tango, yeah? It takes other people. If you're trying to make, develop your business, it's not just going to be you. You need other people to step up as well. But for now, let's focus on raising our own standards. That means expecting things of ourselves that is greater and more valuable than before. That means taking more action consistently than ever before. That means being more disciplined. That means having a structure, a schedule, doing the things that you promise yourself. Because when you don't do the things that you say you'll do to yourself, you trust yourself less and less. You love yourself less and less. You start to self-sabotage in the future more and more because deep down, you don't believe you have what it takes. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to achieve this or that, or I'm going to work towards this, that breakthrough moment, breaking that record that you have in a competition, winning a trophy, getting certified in something, overcoming one of your fears. A breakthrough moment, I don't know, if you've always been scared of going on a plane, if you've been terrified of flying, breakthrough moment for you might be actually flying. Part of breaking through is going to require yourself to step up that bit more. And Tony Robbins says this best. He says, if you are and I'll give the example of being a mother or a father. If you were a good parent, What kind of results do you expect your children to get? And the answer is poor results. That's right. Sometimes you could be a good parent and think, you know what? I raised them when the kids were young. I made sure they were fed, they were sheltered. I was good. I was a good parent. I said nice things. I encouraged them to do their homeworks and this and that. Why did they become addicted to drugs? Why did my kids become depressed? Why did my kids self-harm? Why did my kids hate themselves and hate me? Why? And it's because you were good. And good is not good enough. And then Tony Robbins goes on to say, what if you were a great parent? And I mean genuinely a great parent. You took your kids to their sports practices, to their dance clubs. You took them to their debate clubs or what have you, their extracurriculars. You did the right things. You made sure they had the best kind of food that they could have. You made sure that they were able to watch their shows, to be entertained. You encouraged them to have birthday parties. You were a great parent. Why did you only get good results? Why did your children only turn out, well, it's a bit harsh to put it this way, but for this example, we'll say average? Why did your kids not achieve their maximum potential? You were a great parent. And then he goes on to say, what if you were an excellent parent? And I mean excellent. What if as parents you paid and you took them on holidays once or twice a year, to all these all-inclusive holidays where you nurtured them, you showed them unconditional love? What if you were there and you encouraged them to go out and chase their dreams, and you said to them, you know what, and you bought them what they really, really wanted for Christmas or for any other religious holidays or for their birthdays. You took them on lovely trips. You encouraged them to go to education. You supported them. You attended parents' evenings. You gave your all. You asked them to step up. You encouraged them to read with you several times a week, to develop them, to nurture them. You said positive things to them to build their confidence as young human beings. Why did they just turn out to be quite good? Why didn't they turn out to be excellent? And Tony Robbins lastly says, fortunately for us, there's a very close distinction between excellent and outstanding. And in the analogy here of being an incredible parent, being an outstanding parent will produce excellent results. And maybe being an outstanding parent consists of not spoiling your kids. Because if people are spoilt growing up, then they don't have that level of hunger, that dedication. They're not willing to fight. They have no resilience because they've never had to fight when growing up. They've never had to show resilience. And they've taught themselves to always get the easy win, to always expect things, to feel entitled to things. But being an outstanding parent is maybe to have an incredible house and to provide things for their children, but not to spoil them, to make them work and fight and grind, to develop their character. That's what an outstanding parent does. An outstanding parent is someone who ensures that their children learn all about and are encouraged to go and study whatever they love for their passion, and to invest in them, and to buy courses for them to go and learn about property development and investments, and to go and study stocks and shares and study how to start a business, and to invest money in all these really important, so that your children grow up feeling nurtured, developed, ready to take on the realities of the world. And so let's bring it back, and it comes back to our standards. Are you good? Do you do a little bit of work to your breakthrough, whatever your breakthrough is to you? Do you do a little bit every single day towards making it happen? Are you good? Are you great? Do you put 2 or 3 hours into working? Well, that's not even great. That's still just good, really. Do you put 5-6 hours into whatever you want to do to break through in life? 5-6 hours a day. That's great work. 5-6 hours a day. You know, especially if you sleep 8 hours a day. Obviously, time to eat and so on and so forth. Working 5-6 hour days, that's great to achieving what you want to achieve and break through. That's fantastic. Or do you want to be excellent? Which requires massive dedication, massive discipline, and expectance that makes other people throw up when they think about how hard you work to break through in this particular avenue. Or are you outstanding? And you go above and beyond anyone's expectations. When you rise and every single day you step up and you do what you must. And you kind of metaphorically gobble up any adversity that's thrown your way. And you just keep moving forward. Now, those are some serious standards. And that's what we're talking about. And sometimes that is what it's going to take for you to break through. You know, in terms of skill acquisition, it takes over 10,000 hours of practice to master a skill. That could be a certain movement in sports or athletics. It could be learning about a certain topic, marketing, branding, advertising, negotiation, whatever it is. Let's move on. Next, we have our beliefs. So breaking through in life is about, let me begin by saying what our belief is. Our beliefs are created over time because of whatever we've experienced and whatever we've done before. So for most people, because they spend a large portion of their time living in the past, thinking about their past problems, any abuses that they might have sustained, maybe when they got rejected or let down or they lost a job, and they keep focusing on negative things, which a lot of people do. And that's why they live in chronic stress 70% of their lives, because of financial issues as well for your average person. But if you're stuck in the past, and for brief glimpses every now and then, for fleeting moments, you might be in the present moment. Maybe when you're going for a walk amongst nature, maybe when you're in the presence of a baby or a puppy, and you're like, oh, how beautiful, and you're fully present. Maybe if you've gone for a massage and you're fully present in the moment, you actually feel relaxed for once. The problem is it's not enough. It's not long enough to really change your subconscious programs. 95% of our beliefs, our perceptions, our behaviors, our emotions are subconscious programs, simply meaning that we've done certain actions so repetitiously that we begin to associate it with who we are, and therefore the actual action itself becomes automatic. We just start doing things without even thinking about it consciously. And so a belief is just a thought that's been repeated and reinforced and consolidated over time. So for us to change our beliefs, and especially limiting beliefs that have currently inhibited us from breaking through, we need to visualize. We need to do some mental rehearsing. We need to imagine the kind of life we want to move toward. Again, it's about what we focus on. Utilizing NLP strategies in terms of vividly imagining our levels of success, joy, confidence, fully breaking through. We need to visually memorize it in order to move towards it and to make it happen. Changing your beliefs is going to require new thoughts. For you to think new thoughts and create and change and rewire how your own brain works, you need to stimulate and activate both neuroplasticity and therefore neurogenesis. Learning new things, experiencing new things, new experiences, developing new skills, because that's what challenges your brain. That's what produces new neurons. That's what consolidates the connections amongst your neurons. And that's what enables change within your personality over time, and therefore your results. You need new thoughts if you want new results. You need new thoughts in order to break through. The problem is most people, they kind of live in like Groundhog Day. They do repetitious things most of the time. They run mental and emotional patterns every single day. And we become addicted to our compulsive thinking, our own egos, and that's why people are unable to change. That's why most people either never break through, or the breakthrough takes way too long. And it didn't need to take several years to break through. You could have done it within a few weeks or a few days if you knew what you were doing. But after this podcast, you're going to have a much better understanding as to how you can break through more quickly in your life. And so, yes, another element is the ego. I touched upon it earlier. Now, the ego and our stories are very much closely aligned. So what do I mean by our stories? when we wake up and we do the same sort of things every day, and we wake up and we go on your WhatsApp, on your Twitter, on your Instagram, or on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, on your Snapchat, when you speak to the same kind of people every day, whether over the phone, through text messages, when you interact with the same kind of people every single day, you're constantly reminding yourself of who you are, your labels of other people, your possessions, the things you have in your life that you associate with, and also, therefore, the things you don't have. So, for example, let me give you I gave you a lot to work with there. So this is your story. Your story might be, I'm completely making this up. Someone's story might be, as a teenager, I wasn't shown love by my parents. I ended up falling in love with someone who turned out to be relatively abusive. And, I was only stayed with them because at least they showed me some kind of attention and significance, at least for a short period of time. They treated me badly over time. I felt controlled and subjugated and all these sorts of things. I got my job. I ended up losing my job a couple of years down the line because of stress, and I felt overwhelmed and 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 if this person in this example were to wake up every single day and literally remember losing their job, being abused, not feeling loved or appreciated by the parents and all these sorts of things. If you're constantly waking up reminding yourself of who you are, and you go on Facebook and you see pictures of just yourself, and then it starts making you think about how your parents weren't there for you, or you start to you use your diary, and every day in your diary you write down how much you hated your ex-partner or your current partner who you're with, for example. And all these sorts of things. And, you every day you talk to your friends about their job, and then you start to recollect them and remember, when you got fired or what went wrong in the job that you had previously. You're constantly reminding yourself of who you are. And therefore, you're constantly reminding yourself of what you can do, but also, more detrimentally, what you can't do. This is key. We cannot identify with the mind, with our identity, with our ego, emotionally. Now, that doesn't mean reject who you are, reject your gender, your background. That doesn't mean reject your ethnicity, your political standpoints, your perspective, your strengths, and these sorts of things. It doesn't mean act like none of that exists. We have to respect that appropriately, however. But we cannot allow ourselves to be completely immersed by time, that time-bound consciousness, where every single day you spend a large proportion of your day constantly thinking about the past and how you got let down or betrayed, or thinking about the future negatively, thinking about, I'm not going to start this business because I'm too busy with this, that, and the other, and no one here support me. My parents didn't support me. My ex didn't support me. I'm on my own, and you start to think about how your future's going to be alarming and difficult as well. This is how people spend a lot of their lives. They don't envision a better quality life, and that will have dramatic repercussions on your potential, on how much action you take, on your belief systems, and so on and so forth. So be careful with the story that you set out for yourself. What I like to do is I like to do an activity whereby I get my clients to write down or even draw, if they're visual learners, the kind of life they want for themselves. What would be like, say this was a story or a film or a soap, what would be their ideal lifestyle? Who would be part of this lifestyle? Where would you live? What kind of consciousness would you have? What kind of emotions would you experience on a daily basis? What kind of flow-based activities would you be doing on a daily basis? Flow-based activities means things like your hobbies, like playing sports or reading or dancing or what have you. What would your lifestyle be like? And then you start to work backwards. How can you make that lifestyle happen? What can you do on a daily basis? What sort of things can you learn? What kind of courses can you begin? What kind of workshops can you attend? What kind of books should you read? What kind of the existing links that you have with people? How can you get people to support you, and how can you support them in their endeavors as well, and build unconditional love and relationships with existing people? How can you spread your word and share and give more to others so that you can start to attract more positivity within your life? How can you give and not just expect to take all the time? And this is how you can start the process of reshaping your life. But you're not going to be doing that if you're constantly reminding yourself of your limitations and your sense of lack, how incomplete you feel, why you're not enough, why you're unworthy of love, why you're unworthy of having time to go to the gym or to meditate or go for nice long walks. We need to rise above our limiting story. And this links very much with the victim syndrome. I write about this in The Art of Power, Happiness and Success, my book. You can get that at Amazon. You can also get it at my store at www.alexgemstore.com. And the victim syndrome is all about not taking responsibility. Okay? It's about always pointing the finger. Instead, it's about taking responsibility. And that's what leaders do. So let's make this a bit more relevant to you as well. Whatever your breakthrough moments, whatever you want your breakthrough moments to be, which I asked you to do at the start of this podcast, I want you to consider why you haven't got there so far. And when you start to say things like, oh, I've got an unsupportive spouse, or I don't have enough money to start this process, or I don't have enough time to start this process, or I don't have enough energy, I'm drained every day working on this and that stress and these things and trying to keep everything going in my life. That's how you'll start to understand your story, your limiting story that I mentioned. Because we cannot point the finger at anyone. We are primarily responsible for our choices, for our thoughts, for our emotions, for our behaviors, for our patterns, for our moods, for our attitudes, for our beliefs, for our personality traits, our characteristics, and therefore our form-based identity. We are responsible for our level of consciousness, whether we're really enlightened, giving, loving human beings, or whether we act out of scarcity and lack. We have a fixed mindset and we want to keep and hoard all these things because we're scared of losing things, because our ego is acting out of lack and fear. So now, like I gave you a couple of examples of people who might have had some difficult lifestyles and difficult upbringing in childhood and so on and so forth. And at least I can understand with these people. I don't put that forward because regardless, if you were like really horrible things, if you're abused, molested, raped, rejected, trafficked, or any really, really genuinely awful things have happened to you in the past, I completely empathize with that situation. But even so, you cannot live in the past. You cannot use those painful experiences to project your current experience and your future. You're just living in pain. You don't deserve to suffer anymore. And you need to rise above this and stop giving excuses for why you don't have things. You can't use those experiences as reasons why you're not breaking through and accomplishing and experiencing the kind of joy, happiness, and peace that you want and deserve. And some people don't even go through any drastic things and they still have the victim mentality because they've blown things out of proportion. They've been hyperbolic in their expressions and they think that they've been hard done by. And I genuinely come across a lot of people who think they've had life tough. They feel entitled. They feel like the government should be, they sponge off the government and they feel like, people should be looking after me here, there, everywhere I go. I'm vulnerable. I need help. I'm this and that. But when you live like that, again, you're living in lack. Even if you manage to scrounge like a parasite off people and governments and society and on familial members or relatives or friends, and you try to exploit all these people around you, you're still not going to be fulfilled. Because you're not acting out of abundance and love and that higher level of consciousness, that unconditioned consciousness. You're not in the present moment. You're constantly reliving why you're not enough and why other people should be giving you things, and giving yourself excuses to protect your own ego as to why you don't accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. We need to step outside of our own shadows. So let me give you some practical things to utilize as well. How can we break through? It comes down to the questions in which we ask ourselves, because the questions we think about and say to ourselves, it determines your focus. So I know earlier on in this podcast, I gave you a couple of questions that forced you to uncover your limiting narrative. That's appropriate for 1 or 2 exercises, but we cannot live there. We cannot ask these kind of questions every single day. So I'm going to give you some very random examples now in different contexts to teach you the kind of limiting questions that people often ask themselves that prevent them from breaking through, that keep them stagnated. So a limiting question that people often ask themselves is, why am I unattractive? Why don't I have enough money? Why don't I have enough friends? Why am I so angry all the time? Why am I so depressed all the time? Why don't I have any energy? What caused me to be so angry? Why am I so lonely? These are negative questions that the answers that derive from them can only be negative and painful. There can only be excuses and reasons that hold us captive, that suppress us even further. So instead, we're going to want to think consciously. You might want to actually write down some positive questions that you force yourself to ask yourself every single day until it becomes a subconscious program. And you need to be patient here, guys. It takes between 66 days to 365 days for a pattern to be deeply instilled in your unconscious. It takes repetition. Repetitious thoughts and questions lead to repetitious beliefs. So, positive questions might be, how can I better myself? What will enable me to break through? Who can support me to break through? How can I structure my life to ensure that I break through? What emotions do I want to experience every day? These are some questions that you can ask yourself that opens possibilities. It creates new pathways of thinking. That's going to lead to that aha moment where you're like, you know what? Wow, I never considered that before. Or yes, I can utilize that resource or that idea, or I can make this work, or you know what, maybe I can be more productive in the morning, or when everyone goes to sleep. And if you're more of a nighttime person, you're like, that's when I can be more productive and get things done and work on what's important for me. Or maybe I can start that course that I've been putting myself and giving myself excuses for not starting and investing in it, and therefore investing in myself. Then you start to question other things. Maybe I am worthy of learning. Maybe I can become smarter. Maybe I am more capable of helping others and giving more in different ways, and therefore creating the abundance I want in my life as well. So your questions are key. Now, also, similarly, is the vocabulary in which we use. So I spend a great deal of time work consciously, and this is NLP related, our internal processes. I spend a lot of time helping people correct the language that they use with themselves, but also changing their associations to certain words. So, for example, working with clients, I might have someone write down the kind of regular thoughts that they have every single day. No pressure, just write down thoughts they have every single day. And then I look at the thoughts that they write down and I highlight and underscore certain words, vocabulary, maybe verbs or nouns or what have you, and I get them to change it. And then I teach them every single day. So instead of using the word, so say if someone's thought might be, I hate my life, the verb hate is highly emotive. It's a very emotionally charged word. It has a visceral effect on most people, right? Hate is very strong. So instead of saying, I hate my life, obviously I might help them to rephrase that and say, I love, that's highly emotive in another way, polar opposite of the verb hate. But or at least you can get them to mitigate it. If they say to you, you know what, Alex, that's a bit too positive. That's not how I feel. Then at least I'll say, okay, so instead of saying I hate my life, what about I dislike certain things in my life, such as da-da-da. Now you're becoming more specific and you aren't attacking your own identity. You're now pinpointing certain behaviors that you dislike, that you don't hate, that you dislike about yourself. This is how you start to change the vocabulary that you use so that you can stop yourself from disliking your circumstance and actually start to focus on more positive things. And so you can change your perspectives in person's thoughts, and you can change particular words that people use, and also change people's associations to words. For example, that the word failure to me 10 years ago would have meant I would have linked it probably to finances back then. If I failed in something, it means that I reached a dead end back then. It means that I lost. Other people are going to think negatively. That's what failure means to me back then. Now, I don't use the term failure, but when people do use failure, I've changed what that word means to be, and it doesn't have that kind of really negative connotation anymore. Instead, failure to me just means result or a learning opportunity, because when people succeed in life, they celebrate. But when you supposedly fail in life, people tend to self-reflect. They tend to question things, where things went well, where things could have gone better, where they let themselves down. And people actually learn so much more in their own supposed failures. So I've now changed in my brain over time what failure means. And instead, failure is, in my mind, a very positive word because it means learning. And I love learning. The word failure now means to me one step closer to learning how to succeed, because you learn what doesn't work. Do you understand? So changing what words mean to you is incredibly powerful in ascertaining your level of joy, happiness, success, internal peace, consciousness, and so on and so forth. So let's now move on to strategies. Okay. So having the right strategy will enable you to break through. People, when I sit down and have my one-to-one coaching with people, they will oftentimes say to me, listen, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried everything. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to break through. I don't know how to make that next step. I don't know why I can't change this or that. And I get them to collapse the belief that they have tried everything, because we all know that's untrue. They've really generalized. They've probably tried 2, 3, 4 different things and then kind of chunked it up together to say, you know what, I've tried everything. No. You've tried 2, 3, or 4 things, you've said. I get that. I say, go on, then write down all the things you've tried. And then that's when they realize, I've only tried a few things. And I say, have you tried that? Have you tried that? And then oftentimes they'll say, no, I haven't actually. And then I'm helping them to change their beliefs over time by getting them to question these sorts of things, their generalizations. So instead, all we need to do is find, and this is modeling, is find someone who has achieved something in their life that you want to achieve. What breakthrough moments have other people accomplished that you would like to achieve as well? And then all we need to do, guys, is simply copy and mimic their behaviors, their routines, their systems. Maybe it's having conversations with them, being mentored by them, copying their strategies, their business model, for example, paying for their product or service if they teach people how to do it, how to live this way, how to break through. Or it could be to surround you, become friends with these people, or at least put yourself in close proximity to these people in different ways, or to buy or read their books or attend their workshops or seminars, or to find people who live a life close to these role models and become close to that person. There are so many different ways, or listen to their interviews and transcribe their interviews and understand their mental emotional programs so that you can start to think and feel in similar ways. And impart and begin certain routines and learn certain skills that they incorporate. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, guys, if you want to break through. And similarly and lastly, it also links to our focus. Because what we focus on will determine our destiny. Our perspectives in life and on this and in the areas where we want to break through, our perspectives will dictate our energy and the actions we'll do subsequently. Where you look is where you will go. Every single thought you have produces a similar chemical, a similar emotion in your brain. And your thoughts influence your emotions influence your thoughts until you do certain actions. So we need to focus on positive thinking. And I know it's easier said than done because our primitive brain, our reptilian brain, is wired to make us worried or anxious or angry or frustrated or impatient or irritated or what have you, or short-tempered or whatever it is. And sometimes we're not only just battling our primitive brain, which everyone has, that negative voice within us that we dislike, that we think is our personality, but it's not. It's just a genetic programming through over 200,000 years of programming since we were cavemen and women. Not only are we battling them, but many people have to also battle their own unconscious, their own subconscious programs because of how the programs, if you will, that they've instilled in their brain over time through repetition. So you're battling two very powerful forces with your own conscious thinking, but it can happen. You just need to be patient. You need to be consistent, and I can help you get along that means as well. And to enable that change and to work with me, and I really hope you do, all you need to do is go to www.alexgem.com, click where it says join a PHS course today, enter your credit card details, and you'll gain instantaneous access to this brilliant, revolutionary course that's taken me 15 years of trial and error, of all the brilliant books and learning that I've acquired from geniuses in all different areas of life. In terms of the mentoring that I've had from absolute, highly successful, happy and competent people in different areas of life, that I've paid tens of thousands of dollars to attend their seminars, to be mentored by these people, to buy their courses, and all of these brilliant things, plus my own certifications in it, and the things that I've spent years working towards in terms of neuroscience, NLP, all these different competencies that I've developed over time. It's been put together into this course where I've taken some very powerful, complicated strategies, and I've made it very simple to understand and simple to follow. Every single step has been meticulously designed to take you on a journey. And most of this course is about our mindset, our beliefs, changing our habits, instilling quality programs that we can rewire how our brains work and get better results. And teach you how to become happier, how to develop your self-esteem, your discipline, how to stay focused, how to work on the things that are important, how to develop your emotional intelligence, how to be a better and bigger leader in your own life and be a great role model for others simultaneously. Step by step, every single segment has its own worksheet, its own exclusive video, its own audio, and its own written word if you prefer learning through reading. Go check it out. You can see the course outline. I've even set some of the segments for free, so you get all these things for free. So you can try before you buy. I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You're going to be absolutely astonished and blown away by the value of this course. Incredible bonuses are included as well. Amazing ebooks helping you to transform your quality of life. Hours of exclusive video footage, podcast material, and 100 audio segments teaching you how to be happier, how to be more peaceful, how to be more abundant, how to change the rewiring in your brain. Because that's what's going to lead to long-term change, right? How to become a more long-term thinker, how to stay focused, how to be more positive, how to take more control of your life. This is what it's all about, guys. And you get it for an incredible price and incredible value. So I urge you to go there now, start the course. Once you finish the course, if you've got, what I expect for you to make these fantastic ideas and notions more of a subconscious program, I'm going to want you to revisit this course several times. It's yours. When you purchase it, it's yours for life. Just go over it over and over again until you start to live these actions, these activities, these behaviors, these ways of thinking. You're going to absolutely be blown away. Yes, you might want to get my book, The Art of Power, Happiness and Success. Like I said, you can get it at Amazon. You can also get it at my store at www.alexgemstore.com. I would love to work with you live. On my website, you can find out more about my live events. Get in touch with me as well to let me know your availabilities. If you want to work with me live in person, if you want to be mentored by me, that would be my honor, my privilege. I really can't wait to work with you in the future. Have a great day, stay strong, and I'll see you soon.